2 board members here, so that makes up our quorum. So I'm going to open the meeting at 6:01. So I'll call the meeting to order. We're going to start with the consent agenda. First are the previous minutes. Well, I guess I should first say, Shaylee and Sarah, are you able to hear okay?
Yeah.
Perfect. How about you, Shaylee?
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. Previous minutes, we're going to start with those from June 14th. If you have no discussion, I would entertain a motion to approve.
I will make the motion.
Okay, Rick makes the motion, and because we have some people on Zoom, we have to do roll. So I'll start with Sarah.
Aye.
Shaylee.
Aye.
Rick.
Aye.
And I'm an aye, so moved. Next, we'll go to policy. This is a second reading, which means feedback has already been given. We have student attendance, admission of non-resident tuition students, K-12. Is there any conversation around those policies?
Yes.
Okay. What do you have?
So under the policy for the non-resident student tuition.
Yes.
So I think we have it in the policy that only a town can pay. Correct? And we took out the individual. So this is what I think. So I think it's a pretty rare event that we have people want to pay tuition to us anyway. And I know there's some equity. I think it was based on some equity. But the real reason so I think it's a little bit like shooting yourself in the foot by not accepting tuition. But having said that, it is a rare event. But the other thing is when we started our online school, we had discussion at that point in time about allowing students from other parts of the state, since we were kind of a unique, that was kind of a unique program. Maybe students from other parts of the state that couldn't access that online thing would then join that, and I'm a little worried that that policy might interfere with the ability to have that happen.
They could not unless they were in a choice elementary town. So we couldn't take a student unless their school district reached out and said, we think this is a specialized program that you have, and we're wondering if you would accept tuition for this student who is ours to attend your program. So then that would be different. But there are non-operating towns throughout the state. So if they're if they're a town that doesn't operate an elementary school, just like we have the NMV schools that don't operate a high school, they get to choose any high school. Non-operating elementary towns get to choose any elementary school. So that's how we would accept them into our Flexible Pathways Academy, is only if they were a choice town.
So we couldn't accept them if they were paying tuition?
We don't have an avenue in the way that this is written.
That's what you're saying.
That's
the
my
town
point.
could.
Right.
Like that school system could.
Yeah, and
choose to pay.
that's my point, was the way it's written, we couldn't do that
For individuals.
for individuals.
Right. That was pushed back on pretty hard by board members. It felt like on both sides, in both districts, just in terms of that felt like an opportunity that would be afforded only people that had economic needs.
I think, well, I do think that there's an argument to be made for that, but I also think that, I think I'm opposed to that policy as well.
Okay. Any other conversation with the other board members, Shaylee or Sarah, regarding that tuition piece policy?
No, but I'm having a little trouble hearing a little bit.
Okay.
Yeah.
Morgan, are you the
mic is
you're
in
the
the
mic.
camera, so just, I think
Oh, okay.
speak at the camera.
And the
louder.
mic is in the camera, not here, okay.
So we're gonna
Okay.
yell.
So Rick had just communicated that he felt that this policy tied the hands of maybe kids that wanted to access the Flexible Pathways Academy online, if we were basically shutting out tuition. But if you recall from the other meetings we had on this policy, there was conversation around that it was an equity issue and the fact that the only kids who could access that and pay tuition were the ones who had the money to pay for it. So Rick has said that he is going to vote no on the policy, and I was wondering, what are your thoughts? Or if you have anything to add.
I'm wondering if you want to separate out these policies when you go to vote.
Sarah or Shaylee, do you have anything at this point?
Not really. Linda, what were you just saying about separating these out? Did you say something about?
I think that you could take each policy on its own,
Yeah.
so when Polly calls this to vote, she can ask you to vote on the attendance policy, and then separately she can ask you to vote on the choice, no, I'm sorry, not choice, tuition policy.
How about you, Shaylee? Do you have anything to add or any questions?
No, I don't have anything to add.
Okay, so then I will first entertain, if there's no more discussion, I would entertain a motion for, I get there. Attendance, the attendance policy. Is there a motion on, to approve the student attendance policy as it's written?
I'll make the motion.
Okay, Rick has made the motion to approve the student attendance policy. All in favor, no, yeah, all in favor, roll. Sarah?
Aye.
Shaylee?
Hi.
Rick?
Aye.
And I am an aye. So moved. And so then we'll take the next policy, which is admission of non-resident tuition students, K-12. So I would entertain a motion if there's no more discussion.
I'll make the motion.
Okay, Sarah has made the motion to approve. All in favor, I'm gonna start with Rick.
No.
And Shaylee.
Hi.
And Sarah.
Aye.
And I am an aye. So it is moved with a dissent. Okay. And let me get to my agenda here. Okay, so agenda preview and prioritization. I'm gonna start with asking Matt, I know that your Wi-Fi is a little bit unstable, so I'll just ask, is there anything you wanted to add to your principal report? And welcome, by the way.
He may not be expecting us to go to him that quickly. Oh, there he is. I think he just.
Hi,
Hi,
Matt.
can you hear me?
Yes. Did you hear me?
Was he frozen?
Can you-
I think he's frozen.
Can you hear me? Hi. It's a complete,
Matt, you might want to shut your camera off.
thanks for the
We're not
welcome.
able to hear you.
That sounds a little funky, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Frozen.
Okay, we can hear you. Do you have anything to add to your board report?
Yeah, sometimes hear me now. Hello?
We
Hello?
can hear you.
All right, that works. No, it's complete, thank you.
Okay, all right. You
Try again.
you can exit if you so
Our
desire.
report is-
Thank you,
Bye.
Matt.
Okay, and so as far as any other agenda preview or prioritization, is there anything else that needs to shift?
No.
Okay. So we're gonna start with recognition of visitors. There are some visitors here, and I see there's also some online. There are some student requests. We're gonna take those during the student section in Lynn's agenda. So that'll be coming. But if there's, is there anybody in Zoom that is not part of the student hearing section?
Don't believe so.
Okay. If there is anyone in the public that has something that they would like to contribute that is not in regards to a student issue, please let us know now. Okay. So then we'll move on to Morgan, financial business.
Okay, and I'm gonna be quick, this go around. I did email out a financial report to you earlier today. Let's see if I can get it pulled up.
Yeah. Okay.
And I'm not gonna go over it in great detail, but there are a couple of things that I wanted to put to you because it may look a little differently than you remember from previous years. So if you look on page 3 of the report, this will be true for 4 of your 5 schools, but I've got the Enosburg High School pulled up here. You'll see under special education, we had budgeted no money, and we are now anticipating spending a bunch of money under that line item. That is because when we were going to budget last fall, the rules around special ed funding were changing, and we were thinking that we were not going to be able to claim anything at the district level as special ed. We've since gotten advice that we should still be tracking expenses the same way, even though they're not tied directly to revenue. So at some point, once we get into September, October, I will move some of this money down from direct instruction into special ed to make it look less wonky.
Yeah, because I was going to say
for the budget.
Okay.
The people are all still there, they're just in different places.
Right. Okay.
If you look on page 5 as well, you'll be getting some of this when Vern presents later on in the evening. But in the past, we've never really segregated the improvement projects that we've done from the regular annual buildings and grounds budget. And I'm going to start doing that this year because we have somebody who's out there identifying projects to an extent we haven't seen in the past. So again, in this 4,700 line, there's nothing in the budget. I will pull money in there, and this is an area where likely if we end up with good news in terms of high school tuition students, and we're expecting more revenue coming in, we can think about putting that revenue towards these projects, those bigger ones that are not part of the annual budget cycle.
Okay.
So Morgan, actually that was my question for you. So you have operation of buildings, you have maintenance of buildings, and you have improvements of buildings.
Yep.
What's the definition?
Operation is just keeping them going, buying wax for the floors, toilet paper for the stalls, paying your custodians. The 4,700 is really when we're going in and doing something major, like having a classroom, paving the parking lot to the extent that's going to be your general, things like that that are not something that you'd normally anticipate to be an annual expense.
And 2620?
I don't really see a huge difference between those.
Okay.
It's really splitting the 2600s from the 4700s.
Oh, I'm on the wrong page.
And then on the last page, if you look at this net position figure, what that is, when it's correct, that number is going to tell you what the difference is between your anticipated expenses and your anticipated revenue. I've not put all the revenue into your budget yet, so this negative number is going to drop pretty significantly. But once I've done that, there will still be a little small negative number there, and that's the amount of money that you've carried forward from FY21 as your fund balance to help reduce taxes that year.
Right.
We don't get to count it as revenue the way the state council. We're just saying we had, in this case, it'll be 30,000. We had 30,000 in the bank, so we didn't go out and raise that 30,000 in taxes.
Would, remember, we had to carry over for 3 years, are we done with that?
Yes.
Okay. Okay.
And then unless there are any other questions on that, I don't have any action items for this month.
Does anybody have any questions for Morgan before we move on? No? All right. So, okay. So that brings us to, Lynn. So, personnel.
I'm gonna have Morgan share his screen. So I'm gonna go over the personnel report. There are some, I'm going to have you formally approve the bolded personnel hiring requests, and the rest are informational. So we have for hiring, Cold Hollow has, since the last meeting, hasn't hired anyone. Enosburg Elementary has hired Bev Mayat as a paraeducator, Delaney Carr and Amanda Tuck, Desiree, I should say Destiny, Benware as a paraeducator, and Jennifer Meadleys as a long-term sub for kindergarten. That's a 30-day position. Enosburg Middle School has hired Jessica Weber as the middle school counselor. The high school has hired, Enosburg High School has hired Natalie Reed for their varsity soccer coach, Wyatt LaRose for varsity boys basketball, Ryan Wells for JV softball, and Charles Loisel for JV baseball. Richford Elementary, Ashley Chamberlain for school-based clinician. She'll be splitting time as a grade 4-5 classroom teacher and part-time as a school-based clinician. Christine Rondow as a paraeducator, Samantha Brunel as a paraeducator. She's actually SU level, she's a behavior technician, and Catherine West, same thing, an SU level behavior technician. Richford Junior Senior High School has hired Jared Paquette to teach 0.25, a quarter of the time for high school social studies, and 3/4 of the time he'll be.
He decided not to take the position.
Okay, so scratch that, we don't need approval on that one. Linda Marcy, half-time paraeducator, Kelsey Larrabee, half-time paraeducator, Marie Bro is switching from a custodian position to a paraeducator, Linda Carpenter will be the new guidance secretary, and Margie Barabee, SU Food Service. You can, actually I'll ask for action on all of that except for Jared Paquette.
Okay, so do I have a motion to,
Jessica,
oh, okay, right. Do I have a motion to approve the hiring of Jessica Weber and Ashley Chamberlain?
I'll make the motion.
Okay. Sarah made the motion, so I'll start with you, Sarah.
Aye.
Shaylee?
Aye.
Rick?
Aye.
And I am an aye.
So unless you want me to, I'm not gonna read the resignations, that's informational. I would like to read the open positions, because this is a public meeting, in case there are people watching who are interested. At Enosburg Elementary, we have a grade 4 position, and I will say, before I go any further, as is evidence in my hiring piece, the dynamics are changing every day in terms of which positions have been filled, and whether or not, like, we've offered contracts and some people have signed and then some people have decided not to. So when I wrote this board report, it was double checked today, it was good, but it might already not be good. So let me know, principals, if I'm missing something. So still open at Enosburg Elementary, grade 4, a paraeducator, behavior technician, bus monitor.
Not a behavior technician, not a bus monitor.
Okay, evening custodian, SLP, paraeducator, and math interventionist.
And no SLP. And no math interventions.
All right, I'm gonna do this differently. Rachel, what's still open in your building?
Yeah, there you go.
Reading interventionist, which might appear looking like 0.7, but it's actually 1.0. It's 0.7 grant and 0.3 local rates.
Okay, and then let's go to, so Matt's, he still has high school science position. He has a Spanish position still posted, but he does have, Beth is working with her Spanish teacher so that we can have a shared position between the two schools. Looking for a planning room paraeducator, evening custodian, a bass fishing coach, varsity boys volleyball coach, JV girls soccer coach, JV boys soccer coach, long-term sub for the front desk receptionist, and a family engagement coordinator.
We filled that.
That was filled.
Lynn, can you hear me?
Oh, yes.
Hi. I believe we have somebody for the JV boys soccer coach position, maybe both. I would have to check with Michael, the AD. And we just hired a family engagement coordinator. I think Rachel was about to speak about that because it's for shared, so I'll let Rachel add.
Is that signed now?
I believe so. She accepted it last night.
Okay. I just signed today, so I didn't know if, anyway. Yeah. Okay. So Richford Elementary School, Kelly, do you wanna put yours?
So we still have the openings for the grades 3, 4, and 5 teachers. We have restructured, however, but if we have qualified applicants, then we consider restructuring them. School counselor position is still open, library position. I think we need a paraeducator, and I think we are good on behavior tech at this point.
Beth?
We need paraeducators. We had been developing capacity in them, and I hired them all as teachers. And but now I need some paraeducators. We need a part-time evening custodian, a maintenance custodian, a part-time family engagement coordinator, and I could use a little piece of a teacher, and I could be creative with what they taught, but I can get by without it if I can't find anybody.
Kelly, your librarian, did you need, is it a part-time librarian?
It's been 0.6, we could even do less.
Right.
We can also be creative.
Okay.
How are your class sizes looking?
They're around 17, so even with the combined 4 or 5, we're looking at 17,
Okay.
which is not different than the single classrooms.
Okay.
The one classroom that is bigger is the first grade, because we did combine all the first graders.
So what's the number on that?
25 right now. I have a full-time paraeducator attached.
Pretty veteran skilled.
Oh, great, very skilled teacher,
First graders. Just saying.
They are angels.
Okay, good.
Okay. That's it.
Okay.
No.
So, as far as reprioritization, do you want to have
So,
student next, or would you rather?
Yes, so I
okay.
have student next. So I have Hillary here, she's the first on my list. Hillary has a request that is, it's not gonna give any specific details, so this is a request that you can take an open meeting.
Okay. So, yeah, Hillary, you wanna, explain to the board what your request is?
Yes, I'm here to appeal my daughter's transfer application. It got denied because of the date it was due, the deadline.
And when did you submit?
It was the Monday, it was due on Sunday, May 1st.
So it was due on May 1st, and you handed it in on May 2nd.
Yes.
And when was it received?
So it got stamped at the elementary school on the 3rd and sent to our office that day.
Okay. Because I would think if it's due on May 1st, it being a Sunday, we would have accepted, okay. Okay, May 3rd, all right. And you are requesting from where, from
Richford to Enosburg.
From Richford to Enosburg. Okay. Okay.
So I think, can I just add something, Hillary? I think it came in a backpack, right?
My daughter brought it into the office, yes.
Okay.
But they called me questioning why I was filling it out because I live in Bakersfield, but my address is Enosburg,
Yeah.
and her father still lives in Richford.
Oh,
So they were questioning it. I think that's why it was quite longer. It took longer.
got you. So you live in Bakersfield, her father lives in Richford,
Mhm.
and you want her to go to Enosburg?
Yes.
Okay.
So in that case, the child's residence could be either, Bakersfield or Richford.
Right.
Because of the parent's residence.
Right. And the parent being in Richford puts it in this district.
Well,
Enosburg,
it's-
Richford district.
She's making the request to
To
go
go
to
from-
the other,
yeah.
to go from Richford to Enosburg, which makes it an in-district
In district.
elementary
It's the
school
same
choice.
district, right. Okay.
So, technical question, if it was Bakersfield, what would happen?
It'd be out of district.
So you wouldn't have your policy, so if dad did not live in Richford and they were only living in Bakersfield,
Okay,
and the request was to go to Enosburg, your policy doesn't allow across the SU, across the two districts,
okay,
and the statute goes based on parents' residence.
okay, so this is high school? This is
No,
high school?
this is elementary.
Elementary, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So this is same district,
Same district?
the request is able to be made from Richford to Enosburg,
Okay,
which is allowable in your elementary school choice policy. Everything meets the criteria except the deadline.
A day late,
okay.
potentially. Okay. Okay, is there anything else that, no, that's pretty
No.
much it, right?
That was it.
Okay.
And it was received at the school on the 2nd?
Well, the third, I think you sent it on the 2nd, which was the Monday.
Right.
And then Trish reported to us that she received on the 3rd, and then it came to our office on the 3rd. So there's just some question about if it was Monday or Tuesday.
Right, okay. Okay. And, so, let's see, okay, and so the next, I feel like, should we have this conversation at the end around, let's see. I feel like, so we'll, the board will talk about how to proceed with that.
Okay.
And so then you're welcome to stay, or you can go and we can modify.
Okay. I can just wait and get a letter.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I can actually do it via email. So you
Oh,
can get it
okay.
more quickly.
That works. Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
And so our next student hearing, it has specifics about the child. So for that, we're gonna go into executive session. Okay. So I would entertain a motion to go into executive.
I'll make it.
Rick has made the motion. Sarah?
Aye.
Shaylee?
Hi.
And Rick?
Aye.
And I am an aye, so we'll be moving into executive session, I believe.
Recording stopped.
So that brings us to, there are no motions pending. Let's see, annual in-district transfer report.
Oh, I need to go back to my report, don't I? Okay, thank you, Beth. Okay, Morgan, could you go back to sharing that August, board report? So I had intended to give this to you in June, and I did not, next slide, please. I did not remember to give it to you. So this is just an annual report that I've committed to giving to the board each year, so you can kind of keep track of the number of students who are moving between schools.
Okay.
So you can see that we had, really 3 moves this year, RES to EES, and I think it might have been 1 family. I can double check.
This year,
I think it was just 1 family this year. And then there was another one that really was not a transfer, but it was we could use this policy so someone could stay, like they were already in Enosburg, and they were allowed to stay in Enosburg because there was a change,
Right.
and it allowed them to.
Okay.
So there's your report.
Okay.
Any questions on that?
No.
Okay. I'm gonna go a little quickly through the next part. I'm gonna talk a little bit about some of the things that have been going on in FNESU this summer. So we have had several professional learning opportunities. One that we're really excited about is a partnership with Up for Learning, and that's really a youth-adult partnership, really focused on student agency and raising student voice in our schools. And we had a very successful week working with these students, and these students now are going to go out. This was really a planning group, and so this student leadership group we hope will grow, and these kids who participated in this week-long training will be able to kind of spread their knowledge that they've learned and engage other students in these leadership thoughts and ideas. So we're very excited about that one. Next is, we had a Units of Study professional learning opportunity for our teachers, and that was put on by Teachers College Reading and Writing Project out of Columbia University. We had 25 FNESU teachers participate in that, and that is tied to the FNESU board goal number 1 around all students being proficient reading by the end of grade 3.
And I had 4 teachers attend, and they said it was outstanding.
Great. And some principals attended as well, at least for pieces of the week. We had another opportunity designing more equitable and effective advisory systems, and that was targeted towards our grade 6 through 12 teachers. We had a dozen teachers who attended that, a variety of teachers, and it was really focused on looking at more effective middle and high school advisory structures. And these, the people who attended developed an advisory, like an action plan that they're going to bring back and work on throughout the year to make this goal more of a reality. This is centered and targeted on board goal number 2 and board goal number 3 around demonstrating, completing high school by demonstrating proficiency in their PLP, and also all students proficient in the SEL priority standards. So both were captured in that professional learning. And finally, we had a planning universally designed proficiency-based units of instruction. Jody led that, our Director of Instruction and Learning. 13 people participated in that, and the teachers who participated were able to create universally designed units of study that they not only could use themselves, but they could share with their colleagues. So when we say universally designed, that's looking at all the kids in your classroom and really planning for all the students. So everyone has an access point to the learning, and making sure that there are varied opportunities for that universal design for all students. Any question on any of those? That's centered on board goal number 2 around the proficiency and personalized learning plan. I want to talk a little bit, as you can tell from my personnel report, we have had a busy summer with hiring, and we still have a fair number of openings across the supervisory union. So I wanted to give the board some national, state, and local data just to kind of digest. So the NEA did a national survey of more than 3 million educators this past year. And what they found is more than 55% of their members plan to leave education sooner than what they had originally planned because of the pandemic. That's a significant increase from 37% of the people reported that in August, and by the end of the year that had risen to 55%. So you can see that it's disproportionately higher in Black, Hispanic, and Latino educators as well. There's also some data there in terms of age. So educators under 50, 56% are considering it, under 50, 54%, 50 and older. And 50% of educators with 10 or fewer years in the profession. So you can see it's still right around that 58 and 57 as you go down by the age bracket. 90% of the members on this survey reported that they were feeling burned out, and that they were saying that it was a serious problem. 67% were identifying it as a very serious problem. I think that it is, the U.S. Bureau of Labor and Statistics also has some national data out in terms of just, the percentage of teachers that are tuning into and identifying that they're seeing more of their colleagues retire early since the pandemic started. And in that data, 76% of the people who were retiring early were women, and 44% of those teachers quit in their first 5 years. So there's 2 points I just want to make there. And one is We're looking at workforce data nationally, both education and non-education. More women left the workforce as a result of the pandemic, and you know that can have a lot of factors. A lot of people attribute it to caregiving roles and the challenges that were associated with the pandemic as to why more women left the workforce in the last 3 years. Yeah. The other piece of the data is that 44% of the teachers leaving in their first 5 years. That number used to be bigger. The number of years used to be, people would stay longer previously. So it's getting, people are staying in the profession. It seems they're making a change more quickly than what they were doing before. So I want to give you a little bit of FNESU in Vermont data. So we did, the Vermont Superintendents Association surveyed superintendents late in the month of July. And to give you some context, the sample size of this is that in Vermont, we have around 81,944 students. And of the superintendents surveyed, the responses include superintendents that serve 74,870 students. So you can see that this is the majority of Vermont superintendents reporting out. So what I've done is just categorized for you data regarding open positions that we had in FNESU and how many total open positions existed throughout Vermont. So you do see some patterns there. We at this point in time still had 6 pre-K through 5 teacher positions in Vermont. There were nearly 70. There are a substantial number of middle school, high school, and pre-K through 5 special ed positions open throughout the state. We had a few in there, but those were positions that were, there were a lot of vacancies. Also special ed for middle and high school, 21 vacancies for each throughout the state. I won't read all of these to you, I'll just talk a little bit now about patterns. You can see that in K through 5, we had at that time 13 openings for paraeducators, and there were 240.4 openings around the state of Vermont. So you can see that the support staff dilemma is something that's really common and shared across the state. Behavior interventionists, at that time, we were not reporting that we needed any. In Vermont, there were 117 openings. We have an issue with speech and language pathologists. We would love to hire 3, and we have no candidates for that position, so we're having to be really.
I feel like that position for decades is like, we can't fill them enough.
It's very hard.
Since I started.
One program in the state that I am aware of,
Right.
and it's a very selective program. They only let in a really limited number of people this year. I'm not sure why, but
With the data.
yeah. Hold on to the next slide. Other common areas are school nurses, school psychologists. There's still great need for those in our area, or in Vermont. For us, at that time, we were still looking for 2 homeschool coordinators. I think we're down to 1 homeschool coordinator that we're still looking for. Food service is another area, facility staff is another area, and long-term substitutes. There's a pretty substantial need across the state for that. I am thankful that in terms of central office support staff, we're in a good position. There are others that are really not, and there are some significant challenges that systems are facing throughout the state. So at that time, we had nearly 50 openings. We're in a better position now. As I said, our reality around hiring feels like it's changing every day, but there were almost 1,152 open positions throughout the state at that time. So to give you some context of our current workforce, so in FNESU, we have approximately 250 licensed educators. We have, in 2021, we had 38 provisionally licensed teachers. This year, we have 35, or at the time that we did this report, we had 35 for a total of 73. So provisional license is good for 2 years. So we have, right now, 73 teachers who are provisionally licensed. So last year, we had 2 teachers on an emergency license. This year, the time I wrote this, we had 13 teachers on an emergency license. So when you add, the emergency is only good for 1 year, so I'm only gonna add this year's emergency licenses. So if you add our 73 provisionally licensed teachers that we had, and our 15 emergency licenses, that's 88. So 88 of our 250, that's approximately 35% of our educator workforce, is either provisionally licensed or is serving under an emergency license. I share that with you because the reality is sustained professional learning is an incredible challenge that we have in the system, and filling the positions that we have will continue to be a challenge in the future. So these principals have done an incredible job of thinking outside of the box to try to fill some of these positions, and I've never seen fewer candidates for the positions that we put out there. So I want to applaud the creativity of the leaders in finding solutions for this, and I also just want to kind of out the reality that we're in, not only in FNESU, but also across the state and across the country. So, any questions on that data? So, as a board, we've been working for a long time on how can we work on retention with our teachers, and how can we work on recruitment. So I've been working on a recruitment and retention strategic plan that I'm going to be presenting to the supervisory union board. In terms of retention, I'm going to share with the board members a link to this so that you can see all of this. You can see that all the things on the top section are things that we've already done to try to retain our educator workforce. And then there's another piece that we had considered years ago that's still out there in our ethos, and wondering about considering a child care center that's specific to FNESU employees as another option for potentially retaining teachers. So that's something that we'll be talking about and seeing if that's even a viable option to explore. So that's the only future retention strategy. So I'm sharing that because I want you to see what we have done, so that you can be thinking through, and if you have recommendations, please reach out and we can add them to the plan. On the next slide is a summary of all of the recruitment strategies that we've put into place, and this list is so much more comprehensive than any form of recruitment we've ever done in the past. So we have we've upped our advertising game. We've been marketing through social media. We've been targeting specific states in the United States. We've done front porch forum. We've done Facebook posts. I've written a letter to retired teachers, anyone who's retired in the last 8 years from FNESU. Because there's a law now that has been passed that allows those retired teachers to come back and serve for a year without it negatively impacting their retirement benefits. So we've done that.
Every spring I go brag about our district to
That's in there.
college. In return, I give them free advice in return for giving them a handout about open positions. Second from the bottom.
Oh, wait. We've been exploring, we're doing Handshake, which is advertising straight out to the colleges, so they tell the kids to look on SchoolSpring, but they'll have boards that they send out to all of the students that they have in their programs. So we have 136 colleges and universities across the country that we've been approved for, so all of our positions are advertised on all of those campuses. We're exploring exchange programs with teachers, international teachers, and I know Matt had a teacher we were trying to hire, Matt and Rachel, yes. And we were trying to hire from another country, and we hit an issue with the J1 visa and not having anyone to sponsor, so I've been trying to work with the agency, and I think there are some avenues forward for that, but it might be a future recruitment strategy because I think there's not enough time left for the visas for people to come into the country, but that's something that we're starting to explore. We've tried to explore AmeriCorps, Teach for America, partnerships with Upper Valley Educator Institute so people are able to get their license while they work for us. We've been working on how we're marketing, how we're redesigning. We also subscribe to something called EdWeek's Top School Jobs. So this is all of our positions are posted nationally in EdWeek's resources. We've increased pay for substitutes, for support staff. We've gotten much more competitive for our licensed teacher pay. We have also explored educator housing as a recruitment strategy, and we've been able to match people with housing options with new hires, which has been great. And we also had higher ed networking, so Rachel goes out to St. Mike's every year, presents, and then encourages people to apply in FNESU. And we also reach out to all of the ed department chairs in all of the local colleges. So one thing that I'm very excited about is a future recruitment strategy is the Ed Rising program at Cold Hollow is going to start this fall. We'll have our first group of students interested in going into education, human services. So the last thing I will say is one of the future pieces here is now, we've already done it. We've sent out letters to try to encourage colleges to place student teachers with us because we're hoping that we can get them, you know, here and then offer them positions pretty quickly before they're ready to graduate, so.
And I think because when I think about my student teaching experience, there was a whole cohort of us, but science, social, like it was 9 of us, and 5 people ended up being hired. And I think UVM does that, they put like entire cohorts.
I've been emailing with Johnson, Northern Mountain Valley. Similarly, like we have a crew of teachers on one team who can offer a variety of content area experiences who are all available. So we could get, in theory, like that exact scenario.
Right, that kind of cohort instead of like the one student teacher.
Right,
and
maybe get
but
3
the actual,
at once.
And actually the college came to the school and they did their classes, so I didn't have to commute back to Burlington.
Oh, wow.
UVM came right to the school I was at and had our methods class and all of everything.
That's great.
Yeah.
Right before the pandemic, we were partnering with UVM and we were trying to create ride shares for kids that wanted to student teach here and partnering them with teachers who were living in Chittenden County and paying the teachers a stipend to be their ride in. And we were also exploring house share opportunities so that if people wanted to come student teach during the week, they could, you know, maybe share or stay in a room that someone had in their house. So hope to get back to that. But again, same as what I said for the retention strategies, if there are things that we haven't tried, we are open to suggestions. We really turn over every stone that we can think of. So that's the reality that we have right now. Any questions?
No. Any questions online? Is Shaylee still there?
I'm still here, no questions.
Okay.
I don't have any.
Directors
Okay, great.
online?
We have Kat and Melissa.
Okay. I was hoping you were going to say that. So I'm going to turn this over to Melissa Wood, who's going to do an FNESU Early Childhood Program update for all of you.
Yes, I didn't know, I know the slides aren't anything fancy, but I didn't know if you wanted to put them up just to follow along,
It's
or?
my same slideshow, Morgan. I'll have you keep it up for both Melissa and for Vern.
So I'll start with a review of last school year, where we really focused in early ed on the early multi-tiered systems of support. And we did that through the pyramid model practices. So we had professional development around Module 1 and Module 2, where we looked at relationships and supportive environments, as well as targeted social emotional support. And we also engaged in practice-based coaching around pyramid model practices. So all teachers were paired with a coach, and they went through a process called the Teaching Pyramid Observation Tool, where it is kind of a rating system where it finds strengths and places to improve, and then teachers are on a 2-week cycle with their coaches around a plan with where they need to improve and implementing strategies and continuing on around that. We were able to get a few classrooms to have a pre-teapot and a post-teapot last year, depending on when that cycle started, and we did see some improvements. So that was pretty exciting, and I'm really looking forward to getting it started from the get-go this year.
Melissa?
And seeing how, yes.
Sorry to interrupt you. Could you, some of the acronyms that Laura's not familiar with, so could you say what the teapot is?
Yep, that's the Teaching Pyramid Observation Tool.
Great, thank you.
Yes. Yep. And again, that falls in line with the pyramid model. It all really comes together. We also adjusted preschool sessions to fit the needs of the children. So recognizing again what was working, what wasn't quite working, and shifting that to meet the needs of the children. And in April, we celebrated the Week of the Young Child with an event for the community. There's a photo of it there. And for our first public event in a few years, it was pretty successful. We had families come from every town throughout our supervisory union and a few other towns that are close by. And then this summer, I had a team of our preschool teachers, some who are actually new to us this coming school year, and a few who have been with us for a while, come together, and we drafted pre-K priority standards using the Vermont Early Learning Standards. And we also crosswalked it with Teaching Strategies Gold, which is where we put all of our evidence for student learning throughout the year. So we'll be working to finalize those. For this upcoming school year, we're going to be moving forward again with the pyramid model, again with those early multi-tiered systems of support in Module 3. So that really looks at that top tier, those intensive interventions, and the coaching will continue for both teachers who were with us last year and teachers who are new to us. We're also implementing 2 early learning curriculums, Get Set for School and Second Step. And so between the 2 of those, foundational skills will be covered in all domains. One of the biggest things we're going to be working on this year is developing an early education leadership team. And that is really to engage in strategic planning. We want to ensure that our early education program engages in evidence-based practices and implements those practices to fidelity. It is generally a 1-year facilitation by Pyramid 802, who has also been working with us in with the pyramid model professional development and the coaching. So this is Pyramid 802 is really familiar with our early ed program at this point. So they'll facilitate the leadership team for the first year, and then beyond that, it should be self-sustaining. So somebody who's been on the leadership team this year will hopefully step up and take over that facilitation in years to follow. So who we would want to be part of this team, we're looking at about 8 members, and we really want a wide variety of lenses. So we're looking at a classroom teacher joining us, a special educator, one of our service providers such as an SLP, OT, PT, a parent or guardian of a current preschooler. I'll be sitting on the team. We'll have a school principal, the equity director I'm hoping will join us. And again, that's not an exhaustive list, but it gives you a good idea of who will be part of this team. And our goal will be to meet monthly. We'll start by completing an inventory, which will really look at our whole early childhood program. So again, looking at the systems of support, our partnership and collaboration with the community, and professional development, making sure we're providing high quality and responsive learning environments, and comprehensive and functional assessment systems. So we'll be walking through the rubric and again, identifying our strengths, identifying where we need to grow, and then creating a strategic plan to ensure that we have a high quality program and that we are continuing to grow and we have ongoing improvement. Are there any questions?
I don't think so. That's pretty comprehensive. So Melissa, I just want to say we've been in a place in FNESU where we really haven't had anybody whose job was dedicated at really looking at our early childhood programs. And we know based on research is that investment in early childhood program pays, you know, exponential dividends down the road. So I think that what Melissa is doing in terms of really looking at evidence-based and best practice and really trying to be strategic about how we're providing services to students in their first experiences in school is really incredible, and that partnership that she's created I think is really deepening the capacity of each of our educators. So I think that this was just a tremendous asset to have Melissa taking the lead on this, and I know I'm certainly appreciative of it and am confident that we're gonna see the dividends down the road by this level of coordination.
Thank you. And I will say that, you know, the pyramid model and these early MTSS practices are becoming like more popular at the state level. So we're hearing about it a lot more at the state level, and it's great that we already have our foot in the door and we're already starting to implement it, because it just puts us a step ahead. So we're in a pretty, we're doing a lot, but we're in a pretty great spot.
And for like the general public and the newer board members, so again, that MTSS system is multi-tiered systems of support. So just figuring out what in your system, whether that's your pre-K system or your school system, what are the supports that you have to meet the needs of kids who may not be progressing the way that you need them to. So the fact that Melissa is like looking at the system and seeing where the gaps are, that's exactly the great point, right? Instead of just putting them in the chair and going forward, right? Okay, great, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thanks, Melissa. And next up is Vern. He's going to give us an overview. Tell you, this guy has been busy this summer. He's been running, every time I see him, he's running out of breath from one school to the next. So many summer projects. So he's going to give you an overview of all the ER school projects.
So with the NME, I just want to recognize what we've got as far as custodians, and much like you guys with teachers, we're having the same problem with custodians. And these guys have just, I couldn't be happier with what they've done this year, and it's definitely a skeleton crew. One of the things we're trying to do is adjust to the fact that we have to start looking at other ways to make their job a little easier. One of the ways is, I've been doing this for about 5 or 6 years. The days of the waxing and the floor prep is just it's too much for these guys. So you'll see as we're going through, we're looking at some different flooring options to help these guys out a little bit, and just because of the whole numbers thing with custodians, that's going to be our next focus once we get this summer done, is hopefully looking at getting some people hired and trying to get these guys a little bit of help. Okay, so the first one is, and I also want to say some of these schools got a lion's share of the projects. We basically pinpointed the projects that are the schools that were most in need, and so some of these schools will be a little offset from one of the other schools, but basically it's just the way it landed with looking at prioritizing these projects.
Hey, Vern?
Yes.
Is there any opportunity to contract any services out or no?
There is. I got to be totally honest with you. When I was at NCSS, the only company that I've ever thought did a decent job, they're out of St. Albans, but when I took over City School, one of the reasons I took it was I kicked them out. You need to have feet on the ground. You need to have people that have got, they want to be here. And what I found with the contract cleaning is they're just going through the motions. Believe me, you wouldn't get what you got with what you have for current employees. And the end result is not good with contract. Could we look at some down the road? Possible, but I would like to have people that want to be here, that want to take care of our schools. And they're out there, we have to find them. Okay. We have to find them. Okay, so the first one is Richford Elementary. A couple of the things, again, a lot of it is cosmetic, aesthetics. This is one thing that Kelly and I both hated. These things have been painted over 25 times. I don't even know if the heat comes out of them. There's so much paint on them. So I spent about 3 hours researching these things because they're 1970s, but I think I did find them. I ordered one to make sure it's correct before I ordered 25 of them. So Kelly, be patient. We'll get there. This is one of the things that we're shooting for. So I don't know how you guys feel about flooring, but in my eyes, carpet doesn't belong in a school because you can never tell if it's clean. So this is the new pre-K classroom for Richford Elementary. So we took up the carpet squares, we ground the floor, we sealed the floor, and then basically put down what is this new vinyl, luxury vinyl planking. It goes down with a compression glue. If it ever does get damaged, stained, that we can't, we basically put a sheetrock screw, pull it up, put a new one down. This is, I've been doing this for, I don't know, 5 or 6 years, and I'm convinced that it's the way to go for us. It's no wax. Basically, it's a sweep and mop. Next one, Maureen. This was one that Kelly brought to my attention right off, and it kind of made me a little nervous. But basically, if you're not watching these contractors, things don't get quite done right. And this was a perfect example. These 2 doors were not really not real safe because that concrete leaked in the winter and they weren't usable. So Kelly brought it to my attention. So what I did is we dig safed it, we ripped it out, and I hired a guy to come in, and we got the water away from it, and we put a good stone base, and it shouldn't be an issue anymore. And we daylighted it, so basically it goes to a drain. We seeded it, and and we sealed the concrete, and this is what we ended up with. Much safer environment. We're doing a new entryway door. This is a work in progress. We put new doors. We had to do this phase of it before we could do the second phase of it. So we put new doors in the front, and basically what we're doing is we're doing a new vestibule entryway, and to get rid of the I don't know, the sunshine boards or whatever you want to call them, just to open it up and make it look a little more appealing as you're entering, and definitely safer too, as well as we're going to have a two set of doors that you buzz into. Obviously one that closes, which is helping with the heating, and then we'll open the next door to enter the building. This is our driveway, or our parking lot in the back. These pictures really don't do it justice, but it looked like a bomb went off in the back of this thing. So basically what we did is we excavated this. They pulled the oil tanks out of there at one point in time, and it wasn't a good patch, and it was just it's really an unusable parking lot, so it didn't make a whole lot of sense to continue without it. So we dug it down 18 inches, mirified fabric, and put a good 18-inch stone base that'll drain and run to the actual ditch that should go to. We paved it, and the lines will be done. We'll stripe it. It's getting striped tomorrow, so it'll be complete. And then we're also going to do the lines in the front that are not visible, Kelly, so maybe we can have people parking in the right spots. So one of the other things, this is throughout the SU. We're finding that the refrigeration is so dated, and the one thing I like to do is monitor how much money we're putting into equipment, and the calls that we're getting for leaks, Freon, it was a no-brainer. And Don Reed, I get Don the quotes, and Don does the legwork to get the grants. So we've done pretty well this summer. I think we've got 3 schools that we've got the refrigeration taken care of, and this will be a lot less headaches for everyone. Okay, Enosburg Elementary. Didn't do a heck of a lot here this year, only because next year we've got a pretty major project going on, and Jenny's been nothing but patient with what we've done. So one of the things we looked at, we did the new staff bathroom over, putting in an epoxy floor and new fixtures with automatic flushers, and just to be able to not have your bathroom smell like a bus station. It's kind of a plus for us. So that was one of the projects there. And then this is, again, and this is something that Buck was able to put down. I got it there, and I was going to give him a hand, and by the time I got there, he had it done. So this is that flooring that they had. This was kind of a leftover that they had, and I said, let's try it and see how it goes. So we had to create a little classroom this year, and we figured we'd try it and see how it goes. This stuff goes down really quickly, and it looks really nice.
Is that vinyl also?
That's the vinyl planking, yeah, the luxury vinyl. It comes in all different colors. And we did secure a grant for the refrigeration for Enosburg Elementary as well. We've been putting a lot of money into this system, and it's time. It's run its course. The only problem with this one is by the time we received the grant, we aren't going to be able to get the equipment in time to get it done this summer. So this will take place probably a Thanksgiving break or possibly Christmas. So, Richford High, we spent some time here this summer. Replaced both of these. Actually, the one on the left is a newer model. We did them in succession, we staggered them. The one on the right is the old one, and so we were able to get both of these done on a grant as well.
Oh, is that the refrigeration?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. So this is a big plus. Redid the gym floor. This was a fun little project. Basically, they took it right down, and it was quite a process, I should say. And I think the end result is beautiful, what it turned out. And we took a lot of the paint out of it and just brought the wood out to show off, you know, what you had there. We decided to, you know, Beth and I and Richard talked a lot about what we wanted for this, and I was pretty happy with the end result. Also, we updated the lifts for the backboards. They've got an old system that literally is going to end up ripping somebody's arm off one of these days, so we figured it was time to probably upgrade a little bit. So we were able to do that as well. This is a cafeteria wall, and we knew we had a problem there, but we just didn't know how big it was until we got into it. So when we found this crack, it answered a lot of questions for us. So we dug the side of the cafeteria walls up, and again, stuff done in 1917 is a lot different than what it is today. So basically they had some clay tiles that I don't think water ever ran through them. So basically we dug it out, we put a new perimeter drain, we stoned it, and then we decided to tire it too, and just hopefully go that extra step, and it'll stay dry this year. We literally had a river in a stairway this year, so it was, and to follow up on this, we're also going to repoint around some of the doors and things, because we're still getting a little, it needs to be repointed. There's no relief for that water pounding against the wall, so we've got to do that. We hydraulically sealed that crack, and like I said, we tarred it, and I'm crossing my fingers. I'm pretty certain we got it, but I hope we did. We paved the front. You guys probably saw it coming in. That's just the base coat. Again, it seems like every time they take out these oil tanks, they just kind of throw things together, and it wasn't a good entryway for us. So we decided again to take this down and give them a new parking lot in the front, and this will be done, I'm hoping, by the end of the week, and we'll be back in business with the entryway. Good news, we received a grant for the wood chip plant for the school. I don't know if all you know about what this system is a little oversized for the school once we tighten things up a little bit. So this is great news. We received a really sizable grant, and now we're also working with Efficiency Vermont. They want to get involved as well. So hopefully within the next year or so, we can have this thing running again. This is a work in progress. We're not done. I just snapped a picture the other day, but this is the classroom in the basement that we felt that we needed to create. It's not quite done yet, but we did get a new floor in it, and we'll get it painted and the tiles and things cleaned up, and by opening time we'll have it ready to go.
So we're trying to create an additional space down there so that there's enough room for that middle school portion of the TAPS program, but I don't know if that space is actually where they're going to go, or
no, we're moving
something else.
Well, when they asked me to find space, I'm like, there's no space, but I have an idea. So that was a janitor's closet, and we're moving our planning room to the janitor, to that area, and we're expanding the TAPS program. They'll be across the hall from one another.
Nice.
It's not a bad space. It'll be, it doesn't look like much now, but it'll, before opening day, we'll have it up.
It's really a better location for that.
Yeah.
Well, I was going to, yeah.
Yeah.
Basement.
Cold Hollow Career Center, again, you know, Nate and I and Morgan have talked, and, you know, there's plenty to do, it's just a matter of getting the meat and bones of the place, so they were in need of a couple of boilers, so, probably by midweek next week to late next week, we'll have the new boilers completed, and then we can continue down the priority road. But this was, poor Jeff, I don't know what he didn't know what to expect every morning when he got in, whether the boiler was running or not, and so it was time, and we got it done. Enosburg Middle and High, again, the school is gorgeous. We did a few little things, but nothing that was really, we got some ACs, we got the bleachers automated, we put motors on the bleachers, so we got those done. That was quite a project, but we're just kind of nipping away. Again, there's a pretty good sized project that's going to happen next year, and I don't know how much Enosburg High and Middle is going to be involved in it, but I'm working with the state with stormwater runoff, and it's quite a process. It's not a fast process, especially for somebody like me that likes to bang them out. I'm not the most patient person in the world, but we'll get there.
Grants are involved.
Yeah, this one is very involved. That's it, Morgan? Any questions?
No, that was impressive.
It's been a good summer. I gotta say, this is a great SU to work with, and it's been fun. I want to continue going down this road, and like I said, next year there'll be some other projects in other schools that'll be a little bit bigger. But like I said, we try to prioritize, and this year was kind of, I know we said we wanted to come in with a 5-year project, or 5-year projected projects, but I felt like this year we kind of had to get some stuff fixed, and then we'll.
For sure, must feel good to get it out, checked off the
Yeah.
list.
Yeah.
Cool. So this is one of those things, I'll just say briefly, as principals, each one of those projects, before we had a facilities director, would have taken a tremendous amount of work from the principals to get bids and to coordinate some of those things. So having Vern not only having the capacity to focus solely on these projects, but also his understanding of what's available out there, he's been able to get an incredible amount of these projects funded through grants. So it's been, between him and Don working together, it's been pretty impressive to see what he's been able to draw in.
I want to see Richford Elementary.
Yeah, you know, I have to say, it has been, I could like not be there for a few days and come back and then this, sidewalk is in.
Yeah.
It was pretty amazing to see. And there's still stuff, it's not ready to roll yet.
The challenge has been, as you guys know, just getting contractors there, getting equipment there. I mean, we waited for those boilers, Nate, for what, 5 months?
Yeah.
Oh my God.
So but if you stay on them, they get a phone call every morning to find out where we're at, so, you gotta keep pushing them, but we'll get there. We'll
Wow.
get there.
Yeah, thanks. What else do you have?
Just informational, I had the school-wide plans linked in there. I originally had thought that I needed board approval, but I don't, it's just informational.
Okay. And after that, other, no?
No other.
Okay, so that brings us to principals reports. Oh, Kelly, anything to add?
Everything's informational, except I need, the handbooks.
Handbooks.
Can we do them all together?
Yeah, okay, we'll do them all together. Beth, anything else?
It's all informational.
Separate
I
handbooks?
did the teacher handbook need approval too, or just the student one?
I mean, it doesn't technically need it, you send them both, though.
Yeah, I sent them
Yeah.
both. I don't know if I need approval for both or just the student.
Okay. Jen, how about you?
All information.
Okay. And Rachel?
Same, and I thought, I was like, I read that and I was 900, I was like, Polly's not gonna find anything I share. But I did fix that one thing you found.
And the only reason what she was
So,
student of
just
mine.
need my
I was like,
handbooks
that's not
approved.
her name. Yeah. I'm like, there, I'm done, I've had a mistake. And then, ooh, we didn't change, Matt said he didn't have anything. And Nate?
The only thing that I have that wasn't on the list is the parent property, Italian's property.
Uh-huh.
They are willing to sell 30 feet in the back, a strip.
Okay.
If we wanted to talk about making some extra parking below.
Oh.
So I don't know what the zoning is, or if there's issues there turning a residential into parking.
Is it like where that fence is, where you're currently parking?
Nope, it's on the other side, so it's their backyard basically. So they would be willing to sell a portion of that for, I think, it's like about 100 feet, so 130.
So the one closest to the main, to the road by where the church is.
Yeah, so kind of where that barbecue pit is,
Yeah.
and then that extension, so.
I don't think there's any zoning issue, it's rural residential, but you're already zoned for school. And I'd have to check my bylaws, but,
Setback, right?
well, the house is already on a setback, it's in the back, right?
Yeah, it's at the very back of their backyard.
Oh, yeah,
Okay.
from their property line to yours,
No.
from their house to yours.
Yes.
Yeah, your
There's a-
line.
There's a setback.
Yeah, exactly, it's 15, it's not much, it's like
Okay.
15 feet.
So we'd be plenty far enough
Yeah.
away from it, so
Yeah.
if that's something that we want to pursue,
Okay,
obviously there'd be some construction, they'd want a fence. But it's about, I think they're guessing anywhere from $12,000 to $15,000, so.
let me check into my bylaws just to double check.
If you're gonna talk details on any kind of real estate purchase, I would encourage you to go into executive.
Yeah, I mean, are we?
Nothing that we're gonna do this year.
I was gonna say, I feel like we can probably talk about that later when we have super particulars.
Yep.
Yeah, let's do that.
And that is something you do need voter approval.
Right, to purchase over a certain dollar, no, just purchase property, period.
This lot that we picked up in Richford
Right,
2 years ago, this
Yes.
year, even that needed approval.
yeah, that's right.
What happened to the property acquisition?
But I was just gonna say, we have a fund to
There.
do that.
Still there, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
And that's it, and so that brings us to board business, so I guess at this point we will, our next scheduled meeting is September 13th, and that will be at Enosburg. Future agenda items, I guess the future agenda item would be that conversation around property acquisition. And then there's nothing else. And now we need to go into, executive to discuss the student issue caucus, so the board can caucus on that issue.
Issues.
Oh, SU report, what? One, because the first one,
You could decide the
Oh, we
first
could.
one, open.
we could decide the first one in the open, because there's no student issues. So Sarah and Shaylee, right now we're going to have a conversation, should we keep the principals or? Oh, it's still part, yeah,
Part
okay.
open and then
Okay,
let them go.
and then let's go. So we're gonna have a conversation regarding the first request, which was the parent who sent the letter with the child for the request of movement within district. The only thing, it was received a day late. So that's what we have to deliberate. Any thoughts? Thoughts? I could give them my thought, but that would be good. Thoughts?
What was your thought?
You want me to leave in my thought?
Yeah.
Okay. So my thought is, we already have a policy that allows it. Yes, the date was off by 1 day. However, the date that it actually was due per the policy was a Sunday. So I personally feel that it's within, and the child delivering it, did the child deliver it the day he brought it in? Like, I feel like it's so much of a gray area, and we have a policy that covers our intent, that I would be okay with it. That's my thoughts.
I agree.
Okay. How about you, Shaylee?
I also agree.
Okay. How about you, Rick?
Perfect.
Okay, so I'd entertain a motion to approve that request.
I'll make it.
Rick makes the motion. Sarah,
Aye.
Shaylee,
Aye.
Rick,
Aye.
Polly is an aye. Okay, so moved. So next, I feel like we need to go into executive because we talk about student particulars in that instance. So I would entertain a motion. I don't believe do we need Rachel?
I would like Rachel to stay.
You would like Rachel to
Yep.
stay? I don't think we need any of you, so you're welcome to leave. So I'd entertain a motion to go into executive.
I'll make it.
Rick makes the motion. Sarah?
Aye.
Shaylee?
Aye, with the condition that we have a different method of like Zoom, because I could barely hear anything the last time we were in executive.
Oh,
Maybe
okay.
we move the computer, maybe we
So-
move it closer.
Okay.
Maybe
Well,
we might have to go to the
we can
computer.
move closer to the computer when we're in executive.
Let's change your name.
Bye. Rick, executive,
Aye.
and I am an aye, so move into executive session.
Recording stopped.